What would you attempt if you knew that pain could not stop you? The Iron Cowboy proves that limits are not real. Their decisions. Today we're going to be breaking down Redefine Impossible by James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy. I have a signed copy from James Lawrence himself. I've had the wonderful opportunity of being a part of his experiences and his mastermind. So I've gotten to know this amazing man one on one and all of the cool things that he's done. So James, he ran 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days. That's what this book is back in 2016, which already broke his previous world record of 30 Ironmans in 1 year. But in just 2021, he actually did 101 consecutive Ironmans in 101 days. So absolutely insane. And I believe that he is the greatest endurance athlete of all time. But that's for a lot of different reasons, all of them being about endurance, but also about the kind of man that he is. Today's story covers his 50-50-50 and the principles and lessons that he learned from that. As a sports psychologist, I was super interested in this book, and I'm going to break down all of the little pieces and tidbits about how he uses sport psychology principles to conquer Ironman. My promise to you today is that we're going to use his story that isn't just about running or biking, it's about mindset, identity, and conviction for purpose. Today, you will learn mental frameworks that he used that allowed him to push through pain, reframe suffering, and hold family and purpose at the center of it all. The plan today is we're going to cover starting from nothing to finding grit through suffering and what's called the angry elf story, how the body keeps a score. We're going to talk about day 30 of the 50-50-50, and we'll talk about the power of cognitive reframing as well as the value of family and why I believe that he's the greatest endurance athlete of all time. James is nothing special, and he will tell you this himself over and over again. He didn't do anything special. He doesn't have any special genes or adaptations. He just is able to endure. He has the gift of suffering. But when he first started his journey, he could barely run a 5K. He had people passing him that was super embarrassing that he thought he would be more athletic than. But he couldn't do it. He was not a runner. Started a snowball effect that he's like, I have to become the best at this. So then he trained, ran a marathon, and then eventually he got into running half Ironmans and then Ironmans. And now he built it all the way up to his three world records: 30 Ironmans in a year, the 50-50-50, and the Conquer 100. So he started really small, but he was able to grow and take these steps little by little over the last 2 decades to become one of the greatest endurance athletes of all time. Greatness usually comes from humble beginnings. Start where you are right now, and then progress and move forward 1%, one little bit every single day. The story that caught my eye the most with this book was The Angry Elf. This was when I first read this book, it was back when I was really diving deeply into health psychology, and we were reading a book called The Body Keeps a Score. Basically, what this means is that if thoughts are the language of your brain, then emotions are the language of your body. Emotional stress and negative things, depression, anxiety, frustration, laziness, idleness, the mindset of idleness, all these emotions cause side effects in your body. The story goes, he was on day 28 and he was feeling a lot of pain in his upper right abdomen, in his liver area. He could not continue moving forward. Now, he had a lot of other physical pain. He had really bad toes, hurt shins, aching shoulders. Everything was hurting. Obviously, you're doing something very physical. But this internal thing he could not shake until he finally met with a specialist, a psychologist, that was telling him, you're holding frustration for your team. You're holding this frustration and you need to release it. So, as soon as he took the time to release this emotional energy, his liver and his pain from his upper right abdomen completely vanished and never came back. This was his first lesson on the power of emotions and how they affect the body. That was one of the key things that we talked about at his retreats and his experiences was how emotions manifest themselves physically and how you can overcome them. And this is a process that I have taken time to study and develop into the epigenetic meditation, which takes principles from this, where I first learned it, all the way through experts like Dr. Joe Dispenza. We're going to talk about his books later as well. But just remember, the body keeps the score. Your body is a record of everything that's ever happened to you in your life. And that's something that he had to hold and get rid of. So emotions are powerful, and you can get rid of the negative ones to help flush everything out and to perform at a high level. So in sales and in business, this unresolved stress can show up in your body. Managing your emotions is your fuel for performance. The next story I want to talk about is day 30. What happened on day 30? Day 30 was a really big benchmark because at that time, it was tying the record that he had previously done. But his body was breaking down. He didn't want to bike anymore. And in the morning, he said, I don't want to swim. I don't want to bike. I don't want to run. I don't want to do this anymore. He was done until he started to use a simple identity affirmation. And this is the power of affirmations. I'm going to read to you that affirmation. It's in the book, but I have it scripted right here. His identity affirmation was, I am a robot. I feel no pain. I am a machine. I fear nothing. I am a beast, a monster, a superhero. I am the Iron Cowboy. He would say that mantra, that phrase over and over and over again so that he could overcome this pain that he was in. Your identity is powerful and affirmations are powerful. So when you stack them together, it is potent. It's a potent strategy to overcome negative and endure and push through any obstacle you are having in front of you. Identity is stronger than your feelings. The story that you tell yourself is so important. I can't emphasize enough. I have a little journal where I was in a meeting with Tony Robbins, and he talks about how the story you tell yourself determines your where you're at and determines your happiness. It determines so much in your life. So be careful with the story that you tell yourself, the identity that you have, because that is your perspective, and your perspective is your reality. Another lesson that I loved from this book that as I was studying sports psychology really resonated with me was this power of cognitive reframing. What the heck does that mean? It means you turn pain into power, you turn negative into positive. So, Iron Cowboy, James Lawrence, he shared that he ended up getting hemorrhoids because he's sitting on his bike for so long and running. There's a lot of bad stuff going on. And instead of letting it be a pain, every time he hit a bump and it got hurt, he said he switched it from, ow, this hurts to, ha, take that pain, ha, take that. And he switched into a positive. That's a very sadistic positive, but you can do, or yeah, masochist. It's very masochistic positive. You can do the same thing with any situation that you're in. I like to also use a very simple shift called gratitude shifting, where any negative thing you just shift into a positive. And I have other trainings on gratitude shifting if you want to check those out as well. So with cognitive reframing, you reframe or you shift setbacks and you shift them into opportunities. You do this to prove the doubters wrong and you end up growing stronger. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be having a debate on whether David Goggins or James Lawrence is the greater endurance athlete. And I don't want to reveal my entire answer, but one thing that I love about James is that he puts his family first. And I was able to see this firsthand, and I'm able to read it in the book. You're able to see it in everything that he does. He puts his kids and his wife first and foremost, and they're always his priority. They're his motivation, they're his why, they're everything. Despite having world records and accolades, he stays a humble man and he prioritizes family events. He was invited to be on lots of shows and be on reality TV and a lot of different things, but he turned it down because it would conflict with his family time. And this is something that I've wanted to get into the business world as much as I possibly can. People neglect their relationships, and it's not okay. Does not Performance is not greater than family. Family will always trump everything and anything. And the thing that he said about this is when you make decisions, one of the most important things to know is who you are not. Who you are not. He said, I am not the kind of person that leaves my family. I'm not the kind of person to do this. And that's what kind of dictated his decisions with why his family was a priority. So I really love that about him. So make sure that family is a priority for you. And the last thing that he shared after he finished his 50-50-50 and he was getting interviewed for the first time, he said, the most important thing when achieving anything difficult in front of you is to have 100% conviction in what you're doing. If you're not convicted, you're not going to push through the barriers. You have to have the passion and the ability to push through it. That's why MindFit's motto is that life is passion. Pushing through obstacles, pushing through barriers is what's important. I've absolutely loved learning from James. Tomorrow we're going to talk more about the 100, the Conquer 100, in his new book, Iron Hope. But today was Redefine Impossible. This book is exactly what it sounds like. Redefine the impossibilities that are in front of you. The Iron Cowboy already redefined impossible, the same way the Wright brothers, Roger Bannister, Neil Armstrong, and millions of others have done throughout time. Impossible has been pushed back and farther as we progress as the human race and as individuals in peak performance studies. He proves that greatness is not about talent, it's about identity, conviction, and willingness to reframe your suffering and pain as fuel. So let me ask you, what would your life look like if you had 100% conviction in your purpose? If you want to dive into this and more psychological principles to help you get better in business and sales, then go ahead and join the MindFit community below. I'll see you on the inside.